I'm here with Marcus Buddo, who is a Hastings District Councillor. Kia ora, Marcus, and thanks for joining me.
Kia ora, Andrew. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and I think this is the first time we've met, so nice to meet you. Just in terms of the council at the moment, I mean, I think this is your first term on the council. How are things going?
I'm enjoying it, but it's been a very, very big term. I like to joke, I've never actually known what normal is on council. Got elected in October, November was inductions, then January, December is always summer months, so a bit slower. And then bang, in February comes the cyclone and everything that is associated with that. So I went from being, not on council to being very much deeply involved with council and the response. And I was down at the showgrounds helping with volunteers and organizing them, and then on the rural advisory group. It's really been a roller coaster of a year, but it's great to be involved in something that helps the community.
Because Cyclone Gabrielle was a game changer for everyone, really, and councils are now having to pick up the pieces there. How have you found the process that your council has been involved in? How have you found that with the rebuild?
So, being a first-time councillor, I don't know what I should be relating it to, I guess, but I think every effort has gone into taking us along on the journey, making sure that governance is involved in the decision making as far as it goes, and keeping in mind that, of course, it's just difficult when things are moving so quickly. In a response, governance doesn't really have a role so much in terms of the mayor is definitely very visible in the media, but councillors are really expected to get out there, see what people are doing, pitch in where they can, and understand the situation and be more an intermediary rather than making decisions. Since then, and going through the process of being involved with the buyouts and the rebuild, look, I'm really proud of what the team has achieved at council. I think we're one of the regions who's moving ahead quickest on helping people move on out of category 3 areas. And, we've had a really good attempt at doing as much as we can on the roading side as well. Keeping in mind that there's still communities that are pretty cut off and a very vulnerable state, and are really relying on us going forwards to make sure that they are connected in a resilient way.
Because the council has come under a bit of fire for some of the things they've sort of dealt with the rebuild, and obviously category 3 homeowners. There has been a bit of sort of unhappiness there. Do you think, in the whole, that the council has got it right, though?
I think in the whole it has. I have talked to our voluntary buyout office a fair bit, and I cannot fault them on their dedication and their hard work in trying to assist people the best they can. It is a voluntary process. There are people who are there's a very big spectrum from people who wish to leave, move on, get on with their lives and can't take up the offer fast enough, right through to people who find that who have issues with the way the process has been undertaken and who never want to leave their land. And again, it is a voluntary process, and that is their right.
Is there anything you feel as a council you could have done differently in that process?
In the category 3 process specifically?
Yeah.
I think that being in an unprecedented field, it's a very different process to Christchurch, and this style of buyout, the categorization of land, the valuation of the land and those things haven't really been done before. So yes, there are things that I think, should something like this ever happen again, that the next voluntary buyout office or the next council or next local government can really pick up on some lessons learned and be more efficient and effective in the future.
What are some examples of that?
I think while we've moved quickly, we had to develop a lot of these things from scratch. I think that there were some. It's difficult to match expectations with reality when you've got a process that is being developed while you're building the ship while you're trying to sail it. It's challenging in that state. And I think what you're getting at, and I think what we found was that the demolition costs was a really big issue.
Yeah.
And yes, it could have been handled better. But look, it's been a successful process in the whole.
Yeah. And the sort of rebuild program and that, you're a council that has got a lot of roads and bridges and that were affected. How's that gone?
Yes, massive damage. I think the overall monetary amount is probably the highest in Hawke's Bay in Hastings. I think we've got between $800 and $900 million worth of roading to fix. The response and reconnecting with our communities that were cut off and getting the Bailey bridges in and those things. Look, they did all that they could, and they put in overtime to do it. It's going to be going forwards that it's going to be challenging as we navigate the issues between being able to borrow enough money to pay for the roads, how long do we pay it off for, and who pays, and what is the speed at which we rebuild everything. So, for example, one of my communities out at Kiruru, they are still in a hugely precarious position, and they have to drive down Salisbury Road every day to get to town. It's having huge impacts on their mental health, the viability of their community, from teachers through to workers, through to businesses. It's a really difficult situation, and the faster we can get their access back to a decent state of what it was before cyclone, the better.
Now, a big issue, and part of it is related to the cyclone, but a big issue is costs and debt that councils are facing. And you've just released your long-term plan, your 3-year plan, and that you held public hearings yesterday. How did those hearings go?
Yeah, so we had all day yesterday, and we've got at least half a day tomorrow. Spent all weekend reading them, and it's really clear to see that there's a lot of pain out there. Mortgages are up, insurances are up hugely. We've got energy prices, food, fuel. There's just a lot of pressure points in the community at the moment. And on top of that, we've got rates paying for a rebuild, and it's not just our rates either. There's other councils around the country and in our region who are also putting up their rates. The sense I got from both reading through the submissions, genuinely it was a tough read, was that people want us to focus on core business, they want us to focus on maintenance, and they want to see a district that's been rebuilt. They don't want to see any nice to haves in the budget, and they basically want us to look after what we have. The people who came in to talk yesterday, it was great to hear from them. They've generally been understanding so far, and I think there is a sense that people understand that we do need to recover and that we do need to rebuild.
Yeah.
But of course, we do have another half day of deliberations tomorrow, so that may change as well.
You've got a lot of people wanting money from you. How do you decide who deserves it and who doesn't?
It's a challenge, and this is my first LTP process, and going through all of the applications and going through all of these different proposals that people have, which are genuinely interesting, valuable, cool proposals. But at the moment, I'm sad to say, our ratepayer is broke. And it's very difficult to apportion the budgets that are left. There has been quite a lot of cutting in terms of, for example, events funding and marketing and all those things. And a lot of the applications we do get are for events. And yeah, I have to commend the staff on the effort they've gone to try and balance some of these things up as well.
And just in terms of 25% proposed rates increase, is that acceptable?
Look, the proposed rates increases, it's unsustainable, and it's too high for far too many people. Council basically is in a cost of living crisis itself. The cost of roads, bridges, water infrastructure, all of these things are up between 30 to 40% more expensive than 3 years ago. And so we're talking about core council business being under huge cost pressure. Debt is also more expensive, and we've taken on a lot of debt responding to the cyclone. There's also a bit of debt left over from projects before the cyclone. But of course, interest rates have now climbed up. And so just servicing that debt is expensive. I like to think it's a bit, we can see that the community is struggling, and we can see that the community needs to see a council that is looking really hard at the tough issues. I see it basically, council is like a family. Dad's lost his job. We've got kids to feed and a mortgage to pay. And we need to be going through the back shed, seeing what can be sold, seeing what subscriptions we don't need. And, maybe we even need to sell a second car. But overall, I have to commend the staff for some really deep cuts so far. The proposed rates increase started off a lot higher, and they've worked pretty hard to get it there. And we've stripped out a lot of nice to haves between cycleways, park upgrades, marketing, those kind of things. But the rates increase is still 25%. It's very, very high. Our current debt is forecast to be at 701 million, and in a few years' time, and that's meant to be the peak debt. At 5% interest, that works out to be 35 million a year. When you put that against a current council budget of 150 million or thereabouts between rates and fees and charges, it's a huge chunk of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the nice to haves that you think could go, you personally think could go?
So I think what we need to look at is we need to look at, on the whole, what is council there to do, and on the whole, what is the core business of council? And we need to be really clear that everything needs to be on the table. When it comes to nice to have projects into the future, I think the staff have gone through and they've really cut lots of that. Basically, all cycleways have been cut. Along those lines, there's been a real drive at trying to find efficiencies there. I think we do need to look at everything that council does. Absolutely everything needs to be on the table. We need to look at things like art gallery. We need to look at Splash Planet. We need to look at senior housing. We need to look at the way Toy and our art centre is raising money. And we also need to look at what assets do we have that we can sell. We've got airport shares, there may be other things, but we genuinely need to have everything on the table. And I feel that the ratepayers need to see that we are having those tough discussions out in the open, in public, raising the difficult questions, and being really live to the fact that it's not that I'm raising these because I think they should be cut, but it's a discussion that we need to have in terms of what should council be providing for the community, and how do we go about that? What are the levels of service? Do we need to reduce the amount of mowing in the parks? All of this needs to be discussed fully, in public, and with great clarity for the ratepayer.
Now, just one example is the primary pools. Where do you personally stand on that? Do you think they should close?
We heard from a few submitters yesterday as well on this issue, and it's something that is dear to a lot of people in the community there, and that they are one of the few open air pools in particular was one of the points. I think at current usage rates, the pools have ended up being subsidized really hugely by the ratepayer. And I don't want to predetermine myself because we've still got submitters to come and decisions to make. But while there have been some very good suggestions in terms of how to make the pools more viable, I'm not sure to what extent the ratepayer should be subsidizing that facility.
Now, you recently went on an overseas trip. Was that a council business you went on?
No, it wasn't. It was pre-planned leave, and been talking about it for quite a long time, actually, and council is well aware of it. My partner is on her overseas adventure at the moment, so she's on her OE. She's going to be gone nearly until the end of the year, in fact. And so I decided I should take some time and go over with her. first break while I've been on council, and first break since the cyclone, so it was a bit needed as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. And just in terms of the future, I know you first term, but your name sometimes is being mentioned as possibly standing for mayor in the future. What are your plans regarding that?
Oh, and just by the way, on the overseas trip, look, I was a bit surprised that I was paid while I was overseas, and so I've gone and organised with the Kiradu community. So I'm donating my salary from one of the months to their community so they can put on a bit of a party and, you know, have some levity back in their lives. And the other half I'll be donating so that when the Kiradu Gorge opens, we can have a bit of a celebration there. So, and look, I'll be very happy for you to come and get an invite and cover it from the Hawke's Bay app perspective as well.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
On your second question around mayor, look, it's very flattering that my name comes up in those discussions. And I'm really enjoying being on council at the moment and working with Mayor Sandra. It's a very tough job at the moment, and she's performing it well. That said, it has been actually quite cool to see the number of people who are pushing me to make a run for it, and the support has been quite humbling. I really can't comment yet. I haven't made a decision on it, and it's something that my partner and I really do need to discuss pretty well in depth. It's a huge responsibility and a huge role, and we're young and starting a family and all those things is coming up, and how mayoralty fits into that needs to be a discussion between myself and her.
Would you run against Sandra Hazelhurst?
Look, it's something that I need to make a decision on as the year completes and the term completes. And to be honest, it's much less about who I run against, more than what is my vision, what would my vision potentially be for Hastings, and is it the right decision to make, and can I commit the time, the energy, and the dedication that the ratepayers of Hastings really do deserve in quite a difficult time. So it's a live discussion. It has been, again, amazing to see who's been ringing me and saying that it's something I should consider, and offering funding and all sorts. So, but yes, it's a personal decision that we need to make as a family. Yeah.
And in terms of you're on a number of committees, what are some of the issues that you're facing on those committees that we haven't already discussed?
So I am on a number of committees. I'm on the district development. I'm the chair of the district development committee. I'm the deputy chair of performance and monitoring, and the deputy chair of district planning and bylaws. It's been quite an honor to be on in those positions, especially as a first-term councillor, especially as one who's reasonably young, and hopefully that's an indication of my competence, but we'll see. My time on council has been hugely dominated by the cyclone and the recovery from the cyclone, how we go about that. And those are really big decisions that do need to be made as a full council. We'll be looking at reviewing our district development strategy over the next few months to bring it better in line with the funding constraints that's going to be in the new LTP, and to better see how we can move our district forward with council as an enabler rather than so much a doer, but which is kind of where I see council's role to a degree. And I think we need to look at things. How can we get, for example, enable developers to put in their own infrastructure and enable housing in that way, rather than the ratepayers footing as much of the bill? It's those things that really do interest me, and I'm really looking forward to get into that over the next few months.
Marcus Buddo, it's been good chatting with you, and I'm sure we'll do it again in the future. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Andrew.